perfect shot, man.
This truly is a trophy, not because of what it is, but for what we had to accomplish to get it.
Pain training, I love it.
You know what your heart rate is right now? This is what elk hunting's like. Now you gotta make a shot.
Welcome to the Geared for the Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Numa Outdoors. I'm your host and Numa team member, Will Cooper. The Geared for the Outdoors podcast is dedicated to bow hunters and all those who love the outdoors. Our mission here is to bring you information from industry experts and veteran hunters that can help better prepare you for your next hunt. We understand that our time in the outdoors is precious, and that's why Numa's mission is to bring you gear that is built to over-deliver, designed to outperform, and proven to outlast. To learn more, head to our website at numaoutdoors.com, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate y'all listening in, and we hope y'all enjoy. What's up, everybody? We want to welcome y'all back to another episode of the Geared for the Outdoors podcast. Thanksgiving's over. Everybody's bellies are full. And today we have Numa Recon team member Troy Pottenger coming on to talk with us. We're going to get to know him a little bit, talk about the Recon team, and we're going to talk about how Troy hunts whitetail a little bit different than the majority of the U.S. So, Troy, we want to thank you for taking the time to hop on the podcast with us tonight. And what I do to start out every podcast is I want you to give the listeners a 30,000-foot view of who Troy is.
30,000-foot view, huh?
Oh, yeah.
My name is Troy Pottenger. I'm a native Idahoan, early 50s, so been around a few years.
Just a couple.
And it's good, you know. It's been a darn good 50 years and two more onto that. So it's been really good. I just had my birthday here about a month ago, and you know, pretty much my whole life I've grown up in the Northwest. I've lived in Idaho and Montana. I went to college in Montana. My dad was a logger, and my mom was a school teacher. And I get this question obviously a lot doing podcasts, and I kind of took a little bit from both of them, and went to college, got my degree in kinesiology and biology, and then ended up teaching and owning my own. Well, actually, I started logging when I was 13 with my dad.
Okay.
Which I like to tell the listeners that because I'll tell you what, being a teacher, you get a lot of stereotypical views of you. And I would say I'm the furthest thing from a stereotypical teacher.
I was going to say, you seem pretty busy doing multiple things. Like, I couldn't even tell. I was like, wait a minute, Troy's a teacher?
Yeah, 25 years. This is my 25th year. I've always really enjoyed people and working with youth, and sports was always a huge part of my life growing up. So I ended up going that route. But at this complete other side to me, growing up with my dad in the mountains, my dad was, he's just an animal. He was a logger and owned businessman, and we had a cattle ranch growing up. My dad always did more than one thing.
Yeah.
And I got to grow up kind of in the heyday, the tail end of the heyday. I'll give you a little Idaho history here of probably some of the best logging that ever went down in Idaho. My dad kind of caught the tail end of it.
Really?
Yeah. And for me, I'd like to at least add this in, you want this 30,000-foot view. It really kind of turned me in, I think, to, my whole mentality about everything I do was my dad drugged me out in the woods with him when I was 13.
Yeah.
And put me to work. And it wasn't, no, you go over here and do a little side job. I was part of a 3-man crew, and I had to saw all the logs, and my dad skidded them all, and then we had a faller. And then it just kind of perpetuated from there through my high school years. I always busted my ass in the summers and made really good money for, I was making $3,000-4,000 a month as a kid back in the 80s.
Wow.
And working my tail off and learning what true hard work was. And, just amazed at my father, how he could do that for decades and, not even slow him down, plus have cattle and have a small ranch in North Idaho. And anyway, all that to say, when I got my teaching degree, I went right in and bought a doe or two and started logging by myself. So for the last 25, 26, 27 years, I've pretty much done both. And then
how do you have time to hunt?
People ask me that all the time. I really have to be good at what I'm doing because the time that I get to hunt is, once I got married and we had kids, when Dee and I had boys, we put our whole lives into our boys.
Yep.
They're first in everything, and they've turned out real well, and they're 18 and 20 now.
Football players too, right?
Yeah, I got my one boy's in the national playoffs. He is at Montana State, and they play Saturday in the first playoff or second round of the playoffs. They had to bye the first game.
Sweet.
So anyway, my freshman boy is doing really well at Montana State. He's a true freshman and actually suited down for all the games, and he's actually been on the field twice, but they don't want to burn his red shirt. So he has 2 more games he can play in. So we're real proud of him. And then our older boy, the same. He's a bass fishing machine. Our older boy is. So
heck yeah.
Anyway, he's a ABA pro bass fisherman out here in the Northwest. Anyway, all that to say, that's kind of, I stayed in northern Idaho and I love western Montana, eastern Washington country, just because of all the opportunities out here. And to tie it into my whitetail hunting, whitetails were always my thing since I was young. My dad was an elk hunter and a mule deer hunter.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to go my own route, do my own thing. And I fell in love with whitetails and bow hunting. And when I was growing up, I'm talking to your audience, and I bet a lot, whitetails are kind of everything in a lot of states.
Oh yeah, big time.
But whitetails out here in the mountains on public land in northern Idaho, eastern Washington, western Montana, it's all big public land mountains, up to 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 feet. The game, the playing field in the game is completely different. And when I was young, I wanted to tackle it with a bow like all the guys in the Midwest were doing. And I found out real quick when I was young, this ain't the same game out here. It's just a completely different animal, but it's awesome. It's awesome in its own way. And I'm sure we'll get into that more, but I just fell in love with whitetails when I was young, taught myself how to hunt them. My dad tragically got killed when I was 17 logging.
Oh man.
So for me, pretty much on my own. And I have my one brother, Rob, and we pretty much raised each other. My mother, bless her soul, right after Dad got killed, she got cancer and survived that. But it was a tough freaking road to hoe for a while. And I managed to get through college, and my mom fought it like crazy for about 24 years, and it finally killed her. But she was a survivor. She was a 3-time cancer survivor, 3 different rounds of it. I should say 2, the third time it came back, it got her, it was breast cancer. Damn. So anyway, that's kind of my life story. My brother's done, he's tough as nails too, and has done a lot of great things in life. He's actually a guide and outfitter on the Salmon River in Idaho, and he's done real well. And
okay.
I'm just fortunate to be where I'm at now. I have a really good wife and good boys, and my brother's still doing well, but we have a pretty small family.
Ain't nothing wrong
and I
with
love
that.
hunting whitetails. And I love hunting whitetails with a bow and arrow. And I tackled the mountains back when nobody was ever doing it. Nobody. I mean, nobody was doing it. And as far as like seriously, back in the old days, a guy would, if they didn't fill their rifle tag, which is 2-month-long season out here, still is, they might pack a bow around in their pickup and hope to shoot one back in the 80s, off the road, or if they were elk hunting, a whitetail buck happened to come by without them spooking it, they might get one. But it was never a pursuit by anybody back in the days, to try to just bow hunt whitetails. Well, I started doing it, and I started bow hunting all through the rifle season. So I just made it a life goal in my late teens to just start bow hunting them and only bow hunt them because I wanted the challenge.
Well, man, it definitely looks like a challenge. That's for sure. I mean, I think not a whole lot of people know about it or know about mountain whitetail hunting in general. So I definitely want to go down that road with you. But one of the things I want to kind of talk to you about is being a part of the Numa Recon team. You've worked with other brands before in the industry. You've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff. You've been on different shows. I think you even have your own show, correct?
No, just on white. I just filmed for
the
DeQuisto family, which is Whitetail Addictions TV.
Okay, got it.
I do not have my own show. No, I just film for those guys, and those guys are awesome. I mean, I like being with them because of the respect I have for the DeQuisto family.
Okay. Well, working with all these other brands that you've gotten to, you've worn different brands, you've tested them, you've put them through the ringer, and now we got you doing that for Numa. So what does it mean to be a part of the Recon team where we actually listen to you and your input on the product? I know, like right now, we've got a couple of protos in your hand that we're telling you to rip apart, tell us what's good, what's not good, how can we make this the best? What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot to me because you guys were the first guys that ever came to me and said, go ahead and rip it apart, beat it up, give us true, because I'm going to be candid about any of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I probably hunt as tough of conditions as you'll see for whitetail bow hunting, especially the weather conditions and then the elevations and the terrain I hunt. No, it means a lot to me because you guys were the first guys that ever said to me when it come to camo, hey, we want to be the best in every aspect of whitetail hunting, not just easier weather type whitetail hunting, and you guys wanted to cover it all. And when you guys got a hold of me, and actually I think Dan Staten's the one that got you guys connected with me. It meant a lot to me because I respect Dan a lot. He's a go-getting son of a gun.
Oh yeah, he is.
And he's a great, when Dan told me, he said, Troy, these guys are for real. They want to produce the highest quality product there is. So when you guys came to me and we got to start talking, and it just, really struck home with me. This is kind of what I've been looking for my whole life. I want to be a part of something that's wants to be the best. Everything I do in life, I don't do it unless I think I can personally be the best at it I can be. Mm-hmm. And you guys came to me with that mentality of we want the criticism. We want you to put it to the test in your world and then let us know how to make it better. So for me, this is a blast. I'm literally knee deep in my whitetail season out here gets really good right now, all the way to Christmas. It's excellent. These are my best 30 days.
Yeah.
And I get to also take this stuff out and test it against sub-zero temperatures, snow, rain, sleet, ice. I mean, my clothes will literally on some days in the fall completely ice over and my bow.
I know, man. When we had that first conversation and we were talking about, when Dan had introduced me to you, and he's like, "Yeah, Troy does this mountain whitetail hunting." I'm like, "Okay, hold up. I'm not too familiar with this." And when you started telling me about all this, I'm like, "Holy shit! Yeah, I need to get this gear in your hands because you're going to tear this up for us."
Yep, and we're going to put it to the test. And the thing that motivates me the most about working with you guys, obviously, you guys are really cool. You guys are legit. Everything you've ever told me, everything you've ever said to me happens. And that means a lot because I've been in this industry a long time to where, a lot of people talk and promise you this or promise you that, and it never comes to fruition. Well, you guys have been spot on with everything you've sent me. Say, put this to the test, even more than I could have imagined. So it's been fun for me, just even this week, Thanksgiving week, I have the whole week off being an educator.
Oh,
and yeah. I was literally every day, daylight before daylight till after dark, putting this gear to the test, different weather conditions. I'm testing everything. I hunt a mountain whitetail. And if for the listeners, a mountain whitetail gets hunted by lions, mountain lions, wolves, black bears, grizzly bears, coyotes, lynx, everything you can think of, bobcat under the sun.
Yeah.
So they're a very sensitive animal and they're very skittish. So when I'm in a stand and trying to ambush, and I only hunt target bucks. I single out a deer or two every year that I want to kill. And I only hunt 5 or 6 or 7 year old bucks and older. I let all my 4.5-year-olds walk, no matter what, no matter how big they are. So I really like to hunt age, and I like that challenge of the oldest, smartest bucks. Well, when you get into that game and you start, when you're killing those kind of bucks every year for, going on 2 decades now, sometimes I'll kill 2. It is, everything has to be right. And clothing will ruin a hunt for you faster than anything out here because it can't be noisy. It has to keep you warm. It has to keep you dry. And it allows me, going back to you asked me, well, when do you have time to hunt? When I have time to hunt, I'm in this tree stand all day long, or at least mobily moving to another spot all day long. You know what I mean? I can't take days off because I don't have time. I can't afford to take days off. Now, in 4 years, when I'm done teaching, look out, because I'm going to live in the mountains. I won't even come out of them.
So what you're saying is I'll be able to get more gear in your hands to tear up for us.
I will tear it up, and I promise you, God willing, if I'm still here, and I should be, I'm going to get after some animals, because it's, I've always tried to be very efficient with my time that I have and make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's because I have so much going on, and I raised 2 sons.
Yeah.
My wife and I always put our kids first. We're traveling with Ty's college football team now on the weekend. So that tells you I'm even a little more limited right now than I've ever been. And if my son ever listens to this down the road, I don't know if they ever listen to these, but he knows where dad is on Saturdays.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in that, no matter what, I'm at that football game.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
Man, and I know that lifestyle that, it's fun, but it's tough. I mean, I was a college athlete myself, and I was a track athlete, and so any meet that we had in the state, my parents were there. It didn't matter how far it was, because you love your kids, and like you said, family comes first, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, there's nothing when you lose your parents as young as I did.
Mm-hmm.
The listeners that have been through that and know what I'm talking about, you make sure as a parent you don't miss anything. And obviously if he's thousands of miles away and as a true freshman isn't getting on the field that day, that's not a big deal. But, he's in a position right now where next year and the following year, probably even as, by the time he's a sophomore, a redshirt sophomore, I'm probably going to have an airline bill that's pretty big too, because I ain't missing his away games once he's significantly playing.
Hey, I do not blame you, man. I don't blame you.
Anyway.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about these mountain whitetails, because you've been sending me some pictures of some of the deer that you got on those game cams. And, dude, I got to tell you, those are some freaking giants you're chasing after. Even the elk that you're going after. Like, you don't need to tell me where you are, because I don't want you to give away any honey holes or anything, but you were chasing some freaking giants, man.
There's really good genetics in the country. And I hunt, just for the listeners, I hunt all public or timber company ground, which is public.
Okay.
You just have to pay a fee sometimes,
Yep.
But it's open to anybody. I would say our numbers aren't what, and I've hunted all over the country, mm-hmm. whitetails, and I don't have the deer population that say you guys are used to in Texas.
Oh,
not even close.
It's insane down here. It's stupid.
Right. But what I have is really good quality genetics.
Yep.
If you've looked at my pictures very closely, or the bucks I've killed over the years, a lot of my deer resemble Canadian deer. I
was gonna say that's what I think of when I see those pictures. I'm like, are you hunting in Saskatchewan or something?
Yeah, we're not. When we get the age in this northern tier of these 3 states, mm-hmm. when you get the age, you look every bit as good as Canada. What Canada, in my opinion, I've been up there and I've hunted it and shed hunted it, Saskatchewan and Alberta, has over us is less population.
Okay.
Bigger provinces, less people. And that's simple to figure out what happens to deer age then.
Oh, yeah.
And they got the feed too. When in the mountains here, what's incredible to me is we have, and I'll go back to our logging industry, we have some of the most lush, well-watered vegetation, timber country on the planet. Mm-hmm. And because of that, our understory and all the native species of habitat that grow underneath, under the timber is just thick. I mean, it is dirty thick. So our deer eat a lot of great native high protein feed too. And in the mountains, some of my deer are mountain deer / ag deer, because they can come off a 2,000 foot, 3,000 foot slope and eat ag late at night and then go back up on the mountain for the day. But the big woods stuff that I hunt, when I say backcountry or big woods,
yeah,
those deer that I hunt, and they're my favorite just because the country is so vast and huge. they're only eating, timber country habitat on steep mountainsides. And that, some of the mountains in that country goes up 8,000-9,000 feet. So you're climbing up off a highway that's near, that's down on the river or the lake at 2,000 feet. And the next thing you know, you're hunting a whitetail at 5,000. What's incredible is that we get the genetic that we have here. Our genetics are excellent.
Yeah.
Body size is incredible.
Huge.
Because the deer that survive in this harsh climate, we're sub-zero temperatures and 3 to 12 feet of snow in the high country. Sometimes 20 feet of snow at the real high country.
How much are your deer weighing? I mean, do you weigh your deer at all?
I weighed my deer for years, and all of my bucks that get to 5, 6, 7 years old, and I've killed dozens of them. I'm literally sitting here with them right now. I've killed dozens that are over 5. I weighed them all when I was younger.
Okay.
And now I've just been around them so much and can drag them and fill them. And after weighing a lot of them, they're always dressed at 200 pounds or better. The big ones. Yeah. They'll always dress. I mean, a real skinny rundown buck in late December might dress 190 if he's 5 or 6 years old. So, I think I killed one buck that was 11 that dressed 178, and that's about the lightest buck I ever killed, but he was 11 years old.
So he was just on the downhill side.
Yeah, he was an old man.
Yeah.
He had lost a lot of muscle. And he's, it was the oldest. I didn't realize he was that old till I had a taxidermist send him to a biologist and said, yeah, he's freaking 11. All that to say, though, my biggest bucks that I've killed, they're long skeletal systems, they're tall, and they're super heavy. Those deer will weigh 250 on the hoof all day. And the biggest mountain bucks that I've ever seen kill, probably pushing 280, 290. I don't know if I've ever seen a 300-pounder because our deer don't get fat. They got the skeletal system for it. They got the muscle for it. The reason they weigh so much is they're so buff. They have so much muscle on their body from climbing mountains every day. If they're eating agriculture and living on a mountain, that's where they get the heaviest. Oh, yeah. Because they get the best of both worlds. But 250 on the hoof is not uncommon at all. And here's another factor, and I've talked to Gordon Whittington about this. Okay. He's a Texas boy, by the way. Gordon and I talked about it, and I truly believe that over the centuries out here that whitetail and mule deer have crossbred a little bit.
Really? Now, why do you say that?
Well, I can see it in their boxy bodies that are shaped a lot like muleys. We get some whitetails with a little black tip on their tail, and we probably have more splits other than like Oklahoma, Texas. We probably have as many splits in our genes, like big forks, as anywhere that I've seen mule deer splits in the genes. And, I've grown up and lived with these deer. It's been my life. To me, it's been my life's mission to know them as good or better than anybody in this country, and spent so much time with them that I see it in, even in their cape. I get mule deer. I hunt a lot of areas where the muleys and the whitetails are both on my cameras. And personally have experienced a whitetail buck trying to breed a mule deer doe.
Seriously?
So, oh yeah, 100%. It does happen, not very often, but it can happen.
Okay.
And I do believe there's a little bit of that big boxy mule deer body in a lot of my northernmost bucks that live in the high country. Now, do I think I'd love to have DNA tests done on them just to find out, they just look so much like our boxy mule deer bodies, and they have, how many whitetails have a black tip on their tail?
Not a whole lot.
And, and great big forks, I've got a buck in my basement here that's got one fork that's got 8-inch deep forks on it.
Jeez.
And he's a whitetail.
God, man, you were up in it. Just sounds like you're, Texas is a target rich environment, kind of a melting pot of everything down here. But it sounds like for your area, you're just in this melting pot. I mean, you got big whitetail, you got big muleys, and you showed me some pictures of some elk that you're chasing too.
Yeah, I killed a pretty nice bull early archery.
Yeah, tell us about that. I want to hear the story on that. I haven't heard the full story on it yet.
Early archery opens August 30th, and I kill a lot of my bulls like I'm whitetail hunting. I just pattern them. And early archery out here, public land, bulls that are heavily pressured.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even talk to him. All I did was patterned him through the whole month of July and August, and kept an eye on this herd.
Okay.
And when I had a chance, I was keeping an eye on him, and basically just set up and intercepted him, and let the cows walk by me and shot the bull.
So you don't do much calling at all then? You just
I like to call.
You do?
I call.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I call like crazy when the time is right. But we're talking August 30th, and August 30th is a little bit more of a gathering, herd organization time.
Yeah.
Bulls are still
Yeah.
bulls are still feeding, hanging with the cows a little bit, but not getting too wild yet. So, if it's early season, meaning the first 3 or 4 days, a lot of times I'm hunting a lot different than I would say September 6th on.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Now tell me about this other big bull that you've got right now that you've actually kind of put your mountain whitetail hunting to the side for just a little bit.
Yeah, just a really nice 6x6 bull, probably a 6-year-old. It's funny, I sent Dan a picture of him about a week ago, and Dan goes, coordinates, please.
Sounds like Dan.
Then anyway, he's a bull that's definitely killable late season. It's open right now. He's definitely killable, but when you hunt a bull late season, he's all by himself. He wants nothing to do with a herd. All he's doing is bedding and feeding, and I set up 3 tree stands in his zone area. He likes to there's a big bowl he likes to hang out in that has a lot of brush and timber in it. You can't hardly walk through it, but I know this spot really well. So what I'm trying to do on him is I want to kill him out of my tree stand.
Okay.
And I want to kill him on travel to bed to feed. So that's what I'm working on right now. And the nice thing is I have a shooter whitetail in there too.
Ah.
I really like the fact, actually I have 2. I have 2 shooter whitetails and this big bull, but the elk season's shorter than the whitetail season. Yeah. So I'm playing that game, and because I have shooter whitetails in there, that's who I spent all my time on this last week. Was just I wanted to kill that bull or one of those bucks, and I never did have them in the daylight. Cameras are showing they're still around and they're still there. I just got to catch them on the right day, right spot.
Man, that's like me right now in our place down here in Texas. I've got 3 different tree stands set up on trails where these deer are just moving around, because we're still thick and heavy in the rut right now. I've watched 1 buck lock down on 3 different does and breeder out in the middle of a field right before dusk. And
yep.
Yeah, I know that cat and mouse game right now. I'm in the middle of it myself. So,
well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, my bucks are right there with you guys. They're literally seeking, finding the right doe, locking her down, breeding her right now. That's what's going on here.
Yeah. I can't pattern the deer down here at all right now. Typically, you're familiar with Texas. We've got feeders, we got your corn, you got your protein down here, and they don't care 1 flip about it right now at our place.
Oh, absolutely. I hunt Washington State, and over in Washington, where my setups are that you can feed over there, we put alfalfa out.
Yep.
And the bucks could care less about any of the feed right now. All they're doing is scent checking downwind, and then I hunt scrapes. Everywhere I set up, I always incorporate a big scrape that's already there or a mock scrape.
Yep. Man, yeah, it's a pain right now too, because where we hunt, it's 200 acres low fence, and really only about 60 of it is huntable because the rest of the property is all coastal fields for cows.
Right.
And then it's highway frontage. So I'm constantly worried about neighbors or a buck being stupid trying to get across the highway.
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah, you worry about that. My worries are a pack of wolves or a mountain lion killing my buck.
Yeah.
And I'm hunting. Well, it's funny. You're talking about 200 acres. I was looking at one of my national forests today while I was at work. Obviously during my break time, of course. And I was on some satellite imagery, and I was looking down at the bottom corner. It's 1.1 million acres.
Jeez.
Yeah, that just one of the forests that I hunt. Now it's all public, of course,
Yeah.
but 1.1 million of mountainous country is like hunting 2 million, because if you flattened it all out, the amount of actual topography and ground you have on mountain country is twice as much as flat ground.
Oh yeah. See,
So it's just huge.
man, and I'm trying to convince my wife. I'm like, hey, we can move up somewhere like Idaho or Wyoming, Montana. I was like, because think about it, we don't have to buy land. We've got thousands and thousands of public land right at our fingertips. But I'm slowly getting her there, but probably won't be for a while. So let's get back to the mountain whitetail hunting. And one of the things that kind of not necessarily stuck out to me, but I love how protective you are of your mountain whitetail hunting, because we had, talked about maybe trying to get a cameraman with you at one point, and you're like, hey, y'all can come out and film me deer or not. You can come out and film me bear hunting, turkey hunting, elk hunting. I don't care. But when it comes to my deer, nobody's getting up in the stand with me.
Yeah, and that's nothing. I wasn't trying to be a jerk.
No,
it's just
no.
These deer are so just aware of everything that as soon as you drag somebody else in, you got to deal with the scent, the noise, literally stumbling through the woods with you because they've never grown up in this country, trying to walk through it.
Yeah.
The steepness of it, not to say young guys can't handle it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I know how to walk through those woods,
Yeah.
And like, for example, my approaches to my tree stands, I'll spend 3 to 5 hours on some of them in the summer on my hands and knees, literally sweeping with my hands 300 yards of trail out.
Yeah.
And nobody will know that I swept it out. So I don't make it too obvious, but there's not a stick in it.
Yeah.
And then anytime I come back in to check a camera or to hunt it, anything that's in that trail gets moved. Within reason. If a tree falls across it, which happens a lot, then you just step over it. But I'm just saying that I go to like extremes, especially when I get in close to my big scrapes, where my deer use those year round. In vast country, whitetails really adhere to scrapes to relocate each other after they migrate and when they come back. So that's a whole different realm of science that we could talk about with whitetails in the mountains later. But as far as bringing somebody in with me, I'll put years of effort into one buck, letting him grow. 2 years old, I have him. 3.5 years old, I have him, and I condition him on my scrapes. 4 years old, I have him, and he's usually a stud at 4 in the mountains. A lot of times they're pushing 160 or around 160s if they have good genetics. I'll leave him alone. So when he gets to 5, 6, and 7, I've basically been trying to condition and raise him to like where I want to hunt him. So that when I go in to try to kill him, and keep in mind, I'm hunting public land. All it takes is one dude walking through and has no idea that I'm set up in there, and it blows it out for a week or two. That's part of it too. Or a pack of wolves comes through and I don't see my buck for a month. That happens too. I mean, and that's very normal. That's the kind of stuff that I deal with, that it would drive people nuts, where your deer just leave for a month.
These deer are way more finicky, I guess is the best word to put it. I mean, you might have a better word, but just more than with you saying you've hunted, I think it's in Missouri or Mississippi or wherever you've been, like these deer are on a whole nother level when it comes to that.
The deer that I hunt in Oklahoma, that I hunt in Iowa, that I've hunted in Alberta, that I hunt in North Dakota, they all come right back within the day.
Yeah.
If you bump them.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. Unless they're off chasing a doe. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about bumping a deer.
Uh-huh.
My deer just moves 2 or 3 or 4 miles away in a different drainage and tells you to F off because he's been hunted by lions and wolves. They have zero tolerance. Now, people that don't know my country and don't bow hunt my country don't believe me until they come out here. It's just different. It's different.
It's a beast.
It is different. And I keep it at that. And I always invite anybody that calls BS on me, come on out and give it a shot. Come on out.
Can I call BS on you and come with you?
My point is, these deer don't have to stay on an 80-acre farm.
No.
They don't have to stay in a 200-acre wood. You know, when guys tell me they have a huge woodlot that's 500 acres, I laugh. A huge woodlot to me is 1,000,000 acres.
Yeah.
So what the deer in this country have learned to do to adapt to survive predators and humans is they'll just bump over a mountain, over the ridge, through a saddle, and drop into another drainage. That's 3 to 4 or 5 miles away if they want to be.
They're like,
and they'll do
they're
it.
like elk.
They are. They move if they get a big disturbance in their hideout.
Yeah.
And I'll use words that are different than what the contemporary words for whitetails are, because I've had to create them for my own habitat.
Mm-hmm.
They have big hideout zones. Sometimes it'll be a big drainage that's 5 to 10 miles long. Or maybe it's just a bowl in a basin that's only 500 acres. It just depends based on their behavior or their personality and demeanor, what they prefer and like and what they'll tolerate. And every big buck that I've ever killed, none of them have been exactly the same. Some of them are way more homebodies. Some of them are big roamers, like the one I'm trying to kill right now that I really want to kill in a certain state. And I won't say what state.
Don't tell me.
In a certain state of the 3 states up here,
yeah.
he's a huge roamer. I literally will get him on a trail camera in 24 hours in 2 different drainages. And if you do the math on a map, it's 5 to 8 miles.
Jeez.
Now that's during the rut. And then I have to get back on him where he likes to hide out when the rut's over, and I have to move and play those games or Bo, quit growling. Sorry, my labs are playing.
Oh, you're
Bo.
good.
Anyway, I end up having to play that game of always trying to be ahead of him based on scouting and knowledge of him over the years.
Yeah.
Versus just, if you go in, if you have a bow in your hand and you're hunting 1,000,000 acres,
mm-hmm.
you just go in blind. And there's no congregation of deer. I mean, they'll pocket up a little bit, but they have so much space that they don't have to stay in a 500-acre wood patch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they can go wherever the heck they want, and it's like
wherever the hell they want. They got feed in every direction for tens and hundreds of miles.
See, and I'm over here like trying to figure out how I'm going to make a play on one of these shooter bucks I have on 200 acres. I can't even imagine being in your shoes trying to make a play on a big roamer like that on thousands and thousands of national forests.
Yep. And that's the game you play. Now, to me, that's what's most intriguing about it. That's why I've never left the area. And I've had opportunities to move wherever I wanted.
Yeah.
I could have easily moved to Kansas or Iowa or any of those great states.
Yeah.
Well, I think Oklahoma, you guys are great, but you have no public land.
Shoot.
I could have moved anywhere to go kill big whitetails. That's not what it was about for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to figure it out here in the mountains with the bow and arrow over the decades and be consistent with it on the oldest bucks, and figure it out because there was nobody ahead of me to teach me.
That's the challenge that brings you back every year.
I love it. I'll die in these mountains.
Man, I think that's why so many people are drawn to bow hunting. It's a challenge that presents itself. Anybody can go out there with a rifle and kill something pretty quick. And I'm not knocking rifle hunting by any means because I've killed a ton of deer like that. But just the challenge that bow hunting itself brings, and then throw in the kind of deer that you're chasing after, like, geez, dude.
Well, the challenge is what's interesting to me, because I'd literally probably have 100 of these hanging in here if I just wanted to kill deer with a rifle.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not about killing.
Mm-hmm.
If you really, truly want to be a true predator, then kill everything within 20 yards or less.
Yeah.
And do it when they don't know you're there. And do it on their terms to where you surprise them so much that you get to experience that with them. When I shoot one of these big mountain bucks that's over 5 years old, 5 or older, every time I shoot one, he's shocked. It just shocks them. They have no idea. They can't believe that they got hit. When they get to 5 and 6 and 7, they think they've got it figured out pretty good.
Yeah.
So when you shoot them, or when I shoot them, I always see their, just watch their initial, just that body language and that expression of like, oh shit, what happened here?
They're like the big guy at the bar that gets sucker punched by the little dude.
Yeah. And just gets rocked. And to me, only a bow hunter can ever experience that. I have no interest in sitting on a ridge. It would actually bother me to shoot one of my big mountain whitetails with a long range rifle and kill him when I'm 600-700 yards away. It would bother me. If I can't get into his safe zone and beat it, to me, I'm not hunting.
Man,
I'm just shooting and killing.
I love to hear you say this because I just kind of went through the same thing this past weekend, Thanksgiving. I've been trying, like I told you, to make a play on some of these Texas deer, and in one of our fields, right after Thanksgiving lunch, cold front rolled in, and I knew these deer would be out on the field, and I look out there, and there he is. And it just took every bit of me. I was like, man, I could just go to my truck right now, grab the 30-06, and I'd put this deer down easy. But I didn't do it.
And then you have it for showing, because we live in a show and tell world.
Yeah,
we live in Facebook, Instagram, show and tell.
Yeah.
So what happens is we live in this world where, and big deer will make people do really stupid stuff.
Oh yeah.
And hey, if you're hunting with a rifle to kill a buck, great, good for you. Understand, I'm not talking against you at all. I'm just saying who I am.
Yep.
For me, and for you doing what you did there, to me, I would rather let that deer walk like you did and still try to hunt him down and beat him inside his safe zone, his no tolerance zone. If you beat him there, when you're sitting at the age where I am now, looking back on that, you're going to be a lot happier about it, because you're going to look back and go, you know what? I didn't take the easy way out. Yep. I hunted that deer down. I beat him at his own game inside of his, real close proximity that most people could never get to. And I was able to make it work at that close proximity. That's the kind of stuff that makes me tick as a hunter.
Oh,
that's why I'm a bow hunter.
Same.
That's why I'm a bow hunter.
Yep. And when I got done looking at that deer, came back to the house, and my wife was like, he was out there, isn't he? And I go, yep, along with two others. She goes, you want to shoot him, don't you? I said, yep. She goes, you're going to go get your gun, aren't you? I go, I'm really thinking about it. And she goes, what are you going to accomplish if you do that? You really want to shoot him with your bow? And I'm like, I knew I married the right woman.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair to everybody, you're at that stage in your hunting to where this is important to you.
Right.
When I was younger, hey, it was all about learning how to kill something, how to gut it, how to track it, how to do all that.
Oh,
and I was hunting with a rifle, and I have nothing against those days. I just got to a point where I decided, you know what? I have so much respect for these old deer that can make it where I live with all the rifle hunting, with all of the predators. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it to them. More of them are probably going to beat me than I kill. But when I do kill one, I'm going to earn the hell out of it, because I'm going to shoot him at probably 20 yards or less.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, 16-year-old me would have been crawling across that field with a rifle in my hand and a ghillie suit trying to get as close as I could to that booger.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
At 16. And some people, I totally get it, are never going to be geeky and as crazy about hunting as, like, maybe where my mind goes or your mind's going to end up as you continue to,
maybe I'll be your neighbor one day.
And the truth is, it's not for everybody. What I'm doing with whitetails, and the reason why I do it in these mountains the way I do it, and I make it the hardest way I can do it, isn't for anybody else in the world but me. It satisfies my respect for the animal.
Yes.
That's how much respect I have for the animal.
100%. And I think for the listeners out there, we're not knocking, like you were saying a little bit ago, we're not knocking the people that are rifle hunting or anything like that. It's at the end of the day, like, if you're a hunter, we're all in the same boat. And I've probably heard 100 different podcast people talking about this. Is like, as a hunting community, it doesn't matter if you're shooting a bow, rifle, slug gun, muzzleloader, doesn't matter. We're all in the same community, and by no means are we knocking those people down. And so,
No, the only thing I can't stand is slob hunters of any method. Don't be a
yes.
slob.
Yeah, don't be a slob.
I don't care. I don't care what you're hunting with for weapon, as long as it's legal in your state.
Yep.
And it gets the job done. Just don't be a slob. Don't take shitty shots. Don't be slinging stuff out there that you're not good at.
And don't give us hunters a bad name.
Right. And please respect the animal that you kill.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna take an animal's life, especially one of these animals that's just flat out beat hunter after hunter, predator after predator his whole life, stop and think about what he's done for survival.
Yeah.
And when you kill him, please, by all means, these guys that I hear, oh, just get a bullet in him anywhere, just get an arrow in him anywhere, and then track him and shoot him again. That kind of stuff, that kind of stuff. I hear somebody talking like that, I never talk to them again.
No. Nope.
But by all means, everybody that hunts ethically, legally, good for you, and shoot whatever makes you happy at where you're at, and enjoy the heck out of the. I love the meat from elk and deer. That's as important in my family as anything.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, provides for my family. I think
we love it.
I think one of the things that angers me most about the hunting community is seeing other hunters or seeing hunters tear down other hunters on social media, forums. I hate seeing that. That stuff pisses me off.
It's just jealousy or people that are insecure, because you got to be happy for people that are doing it right.
You have to. I mean,
be happy for people in life. We're not here that long.
Exactly. Social media.
I don't understand why people can't be happy for others if they're doing it the right way.
Man, and social media it screws with so much of it. I mean, a prime example I can give you is I posted a simple video of me on Instagram shooting my bow at a total archery challenge competition. And it was like a 112 yard shot at a elk target. There were 3 types of people on there that I had comment on it. That this video actually ended up going viral. I think it's at 16 million views right now. Don't ask me how it did it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you for the life of me. I guess I tricked the algorithm somehow. But I had people on there who hated hunting that were giving me death threats, so I knew I made it there, right?
Wow.
I had the hunters on there that were like, oh man, good shot. And then I had other hunters on there that these are the ones that pissed me off the most over the people that were sending me death threats, were the guys that were like, oh, you suck at shooting your bow, man. Like, you need to, your form's not right. You don't even have an arrow nock. Just all these guys on there. I'm like, go back to underneath the bridge that you came out from under.
Hey, if you can make a 112-yard bow shot on just a 112-yard bow shot period, your form must be pretty decent.
I know it's not the best. I'm no Levi Morgan or John Dudley, but I think I'm okay.
That's pretty impressive. And then there's the other side of that too. These guys that shoot 100-yard shots, don't think that that's the same as a wild animal on the hoof either.
No, I wouldn't take that shot on an animal.
And I talked to, Dan is he's a shooting son of a gun. He shoots away too. I always joke around. I say, Dan, I had to get really good at getting close to these deer, because honestly, I don't even want to shoot over one pin at any of them. Why? I was that guy back in the old days when I played basketball. I liked layups, and even for my height, I could even dunk it a little bit in high school, but I like a close shot.
Yeah.
I like a slam dunk is what I call it. And Dan laughs, and guys, I think nowadays with technology and what guys can shoot, guys are more proficient at bigger range, at longer ranges, but there's still, all the listeners out there, there's a fine line that you got to start adding in all of the equations that go into longer shots with archery gear. You got to add all the other variables in. And, I have a buddy that's an Army Ranger, and he talks about how they would dial in their long range guns and do all the windage and all that to hit, to be when the snipers were shooting. And as hunters, we don't have time to process all of that and go through all that on a super long shot of any type. Doesn't matter what weapon we're using. So hopefully people know what their limitations are when they hunt.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the key.
Exactly. And yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit. We got down a rabbit hole in that, but let's get back to the whitetail. So let's talk getting up in these tree stands. I think you're a lone wolf guy. There's all these other different brands out there now. Do you like taking saddles in there? This is something I wanted to ask you because I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this, is saddle hunting. It's been around for a while, but we're really just starting to see this huge rise in popularity. So is that something that you're doing or that you're going to do with these deer?
No, I can't. A saddle in the Northwest isn't going to, it would work for some people, but the problem for me is okay, let's say I'm hunting the Midwest.
Yep.
Absolutely mobile setups, be able to move on the go, scout when you need to. Yep. In my mind, I'm hunting very small parcels of land, even if it's 1,000 acres. I'm going to move around when I need to.
You got to.
Out here. So now for your listener, come into the big mountains, the big woods with me. My number one priority when I hunt a whitetail buck out here is I have to give him the wind that he wants to move through an area to, and I have to get just off to the edge of it. With that being said, I got to be able to enter and exit and set up and not make a sound because he might be bedded 200 yards from me. And when the wind's not blowing out in these mountains, something will hear you from a mile away. The sound just carries through the mountains like you wouldn't believe when the wind's not blowing.
It just
so
echoes,
all that to say with the whole saddle thing, that piece of equipment really isn't applicable for me because it would too much noise getting in and up and down the tree, if that makes sense.
Nope, perfect sense. I was
and understand I'm hunting close to a known buck's bedding area outside of the rut.
Yeah,
I'm hunting close because he doesn't have to move far during the day to be happy. He's got everything he needs pretty much everywhere.
And you've probably got, I think you said earlier, there's 3 or 4, there's an area where this buck that you said that's kind of a roamer, you've got 3 or 4 different stands set up so you can try and get ahead of the dude?
What I do is hunt his biology. So I hunt him on community scrapes in terrain-driven travel features in the mountains where he likes to use to get from doe family group A to doe family group B to doe family group C, so to speak. And that might be a 5-mile circle. So I have to try to intercept him on specific doe family groups right now because they're rutting.
Okay.
So yes, I'll have preset stuff that my doe family groups, they live on those scrapes. They use them from April when they migrate up until January when they leave. Okay. They never leave those scrapes. So think about and in Idaho, it's a no bait state.
Yeah.
So I'm solely hunting scrapes, big scrapes. But all of that to say, I'll have stuff preset so there's no noise, none. I slide in, I get up on this big scrape. All of my deer have lived on that scrape for years, and the bucks that I'm hunting at least 5 years. Well, they'll move in and settle in when they're 2.5. So if they're a 5-year-old, they've been there 4 years.
Yeah.
They don't even know where they're living their first year of their life because their mamas kick them off and they got to get out of the drainage and not inbreed. So they'll move. But all that to say, a buck will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years sometimes even on this big community hub scrape where he keeps track of all the does. I'll have stuff set up. Everything will be preset for me. And then I keep my mobile set up. Things aren't working right for me and the timing isn't right and I'm not able to get off work when I need to. I keep my mobile set up because I usually have snow. And if I have to bail out of a tree stand and go do a midday scout because nothing's working right, the cameras aren't showing he's there, I'll try to go find him based on his tracks in the snow. And I'll kind of know the areas where to go check because I know where most of my doe family groups live, say in a 5-mile area.
Yeah.
I'll kind of know where they like to hang. And if I go in and need to move in on him on a specific doe family group and I find him or another trail camera picks him up and say I don't have a stand there, then I'll hang that Lone Wolf custom gear and sticks set up. And my stand's like 7 pounds. My sticks are very light.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's a sick system and I like sticks. I use the long sticks because I like to hunt a little higher than when I'm in the Midwest. I don't hunt as high as I do in the mountains, but in the mountains, I'm hunting so much slope that a lot of times I got to be pretty high just to beat the thermals and the wind that combined. So I'll play that game too. Could a saddle work? Sure. As long as a saddle could work out here to move around in like I do with my stand and sticks. But I can put my stand and sticks up so quiet it's ridiculous.
I believe you. Now, I want to touch on wind and thermals because that was my next question for you.
Yeah.
So, how big of a factor is that for you? Knowing
Number one.
So, how do you play that?
Wind and thermals drive everything. They drive where a buck lives and survives.
Okay.
Why? I'll ask you this, based on what I've told you about my scenario here, why would wind and thermals drive where a buck is every day of his life?
Oh, he's going to be scent checking for does, scent checking, checking scrapes. It's basically could lead him to his death or not, just like an elk does.
It's all about the predators that are trying to kill him year round.
Yeah.
So the scent checking for does and his scrapes is easy work for him.
Uh-huh.
But what he really has to be in tune with to survive is the lions and the wolves and sometimes the grizzlies, but usually lions and wolves. So winds and thermal is everything for a whitetail buck to survive in the mountains. He has to figure it out when he's young, and usually because of some close calls, of where he needs to position himself daily and nightly to be able to stay alive with a wind advantage. He has to have a wind advantage all the time and a terrain advantage and a, blow down, trees on the ground / advantage, something that helps him pick up on them. And lions are really hard to detect.
Oh,
yeah. Lions are crazy hard to detect. So what a whitetail buck learns to do, and then our whitetail does in these mountains, is they learn where to bed up very specifically for each individual day's prevailing wind and thermal combination, if that makes sense.
It does.
And they never, ever stay in the same bed. They stay in a bedding zone, and a lot of times it'll be up and over a ridge to get on the other side if the wind comes out of a completely different direction the next day. And go ahead.
You're saying these hunting zones, how big are these zones that you're talking about? Are we talking like a few 100,000? Or it just kind of depends on the deer?
A lot of these real safe zones for the old bucks that I get onto, and I think they actually they get a little smaller as a buck gets older because he gets it figured out.
Yeah.
So he's able to really zone it, or that's the wrong word. He's really able to dial it in.
Mm-hmm.
It'll usually what I find on my biggest deer, and this is from killing them, from catching them coming down off a ridge out of their bed, from finding their sheds laying in their beds. And I've killed so many big bucks finding their sheds in their beds because my bucks will shed before they migrate. Okay. So it tells me everything about where they were wanting to hide out.
Yeah.
It'll be between, I'd say some of the smallest bedding zones are 50 to 100 acres on a mountainside somewhere or on both sides of the mountain.
Yep.
And then I've had some bucks that like to kind of lay up with, maybe in a 300 to 400 acre area. I also have bucks that will literally get bumped one time by whatever. I'll have a mountain lion on the trail camera right after he was there at my scrape, and boom, I won't see him for 8 to 10 days.
Damn.
That's that's proof with trail camera video. That's proof with trail camera pictures, and that's proof with what I find. And what I end up having to do is I have to visualize all this when I'm out there and think, where would he go? And if I have snow and he leaves on me and I can get on his track, and the first 20, 30 years of my whitetail hunting, I used to backtrack all my bucks.
Yeah.
So when I get snow, big buck come by, didn't get a shot at him because I was trying to figure these deer out. When I was in my 20s and early 30s, I would crawl out of my tree stand. And if I didn't get a bow shot at him, once he got out of sight, I couldn't call him back, couldn't get him to come in. He left. I'd go jump on his track and spend 6-7 hours back when I was young on his track going the other way so I wouldn't spook him. But what that taught me, it taught me where he bedded, where he was hiding out, And what I taught myself to do is when I got to those spots, instead of just looking and saying, oh, cool, I found his bed, I'd stand there for a half an hour and figure out the thermals in the wind and how it worked there.
Smart.
So that taught me a lot when I was young about how to get on these big mountain bucks that are spread out in vast country.
So another question I have for you, we're going back to scrapes. Out here, Texas, Georgia, Nebraska, Kansas, all that stuff. One of the things I always hear guys talk about is some of these guys don't like to use scent products when they make a mock scrape. They just literally take a piss right in the mock scrape.
Yep.
Are you doing that? Or I saw for a little while, I think you kind of had like your own product, like scrape product for a while, didn't you?
Well, you don't know me very well yet.
Not yet.
I have been using buck fever synthetics for 20 some years.
Okay.
So, and yes, when I was young, I would literally take a little garden shovel of my mom's, tiny little shovel, and a Ziploc bag, and I would dig the fresh urine pissed in a scrape on a natural scrape up, and I'd put it in a Ziploc and transfer 5 to 10 deer to another scrape 5 miles away, 10 miles away. I played that game. I would transfer licking branches that deer had used for decades.
Dang.
And transfer it on other deer 10 miles away.
Okay.
Because you're introducing 5, 10 deer, right? You follow me?
Yeah.
Because all their scents are in that dirt and on that licking branch. So when I was young, I was doing that. And then when I come across this buck fever synthetics out of Michigan, I was finally able to not have to dissect the urine out of a buck's bladder and save it and freeze it. I didn't have to dig up dirt anymore. Okay. And I started testing it back in the late 90s, and it just worked incredible. So since the late 90s, I've been using buck fever synthetics and then my own combinations of that. I've actually been through 3 owners of the company. Really? And they use me because each owner will tell the new owner, you better talk to Troy because he knows the product way better than you do. And I'm on my 3rd owner right now, Troy Kaleborn, and he's a great guy. He and I are very tight. I use the heck out of the buck fever synthetics, but to build these mock scrapes, to answer your question, I'm using synthetic now because it doesn't rot. It never stinks. It never gets old. It's not protein based, so it never stinks. And then I can go put that in anywhere, anytime, doesn't matter what month of the year. And I manufacture a true mock community style scrape with multiple deer profiles in it. So when a deer finds it, they're smelling 3 or 4 or 5 different scents of urine in it.
So,
and then go ahead.
I'm looking at their website right now just because I never heard of them before. So are you setting up like drips, or I'm kind of looking at some of these different products. You're just going in and pouring this in, making a mock scrape.
Yeah, and you guys can Google, like, if you Google just my name, Troy Pottenger, and get on my YouTube, you can see me build a couple of them on YouTube. Or on my Instagram reels, you can see me, like, addressing them. I fill big spray bottles. I carry them like double pistols in my pack. And, no, I do. And I literally I trap whitetails. I'm a whitetail trapper. I'm just not catching them with a foothold. I'm shooting them with bow.
So what's I know because there's going to be people listening to this, I'm kind of looking on their website right now. They've got a bunch of different scents from like a forehead gland, estrus, rut.
You gotta have the forehead gland for the licking branch, always. Okay. So whitetails address licking branches year round in every state.
So what's your, I guess, best way to put it is, what's kind of your go-to combo for making a scrape? Is it like this little Pro Pack that they have on here? Like, what do you do?
If you get it online, that Pro Pack's great. I actually mix my own personal. I won't tell anybody everything that's in it.
Okay.
I have my own Mountain Man blend that I have come up with over that. And even the owner of Buck Fever and I, he's like, Troy, you go for it. You've been doing this a long time. You have fun with it. But it's all Buck Fever based. I just have my own proportions that I like to blend because everything that I do is based around communal scrape, not a single deer. Everything I do is multiple deer.
Okay.
And I'm trying to keep it simple for your listeners. But no, if you go online, that Pro Pack's a great little starter pack. Or guys will buy it from me from all over the country, and I just mix it up myself and send it to them. and I got a guy in Finland right now that texted me this morning and he listens to my podcasts, and he says, Troy, what you have taught me about how to hunt a whitetail and how to trap whitetails with scrapes is unbelievable. And he sent me like 7 or 8 pictures of bucks he has hitting his scrapes over there.
Really?
Yeah, a guy from Finland today.
So,
and I got multiple paragraphs from him and pictures of all these bucks. And he says, Troy, I'm 100% using your methods. Now, the truth is, and this stuff will blow your mind in Texas. So, I mean, I got Southern Oklahoma bucks to hammer it.
Jeez.
I mean, they go nuts over it in Oklahoma, and I don't think your deer are that much different than the Oklahoma deer.
I don't think they are. I don't.
Every time I go to Oklahoma, I build a scrape at any of my sets, and instantly, wherever I set a tree stand, I build a scrape in 5 minutes. I doctor it up, and I'll usually have deer in my scrape, because what I'm doing when I build a scrape is I'm not just building a scrape. I know where the bucks are bedding or where the deer are bedding.
Mm-hmm.
I play the wind based on what the wind's doing. I find an angle to build a scrape to push that scent to those deer all night. And by that night or the next day, they'll be on it. It's simple. It's simple trapping principles.
I like it. Now you also
incredible.
have courses that you teach.
Yeah, I do a Montana, Idaho, Washington mountain whitetail boot camp. I do 3 or 4 of them every summer.
So if somebody wants to learn from you, or they want to find, a minute ago you were talking about how you mix together some of your own, some of these scents from buck fever, where can they find you, or where can they find this? Is it your social media?
The only way I share any of that is if you come to my course.
Okay.
I've worked too many years, too hard on this to just give it all away for free. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. Where could somebody find your course to come learn this from you?
You got to come to Idaho, Montana, or Washington to one of my summer boot camps.
Okay. Where can they sign up for that?
Just get a hold of me on Instagram. And I honestly have guys signing up right now for next summer.
Really?
Yeah. And I try to keep it at about 12 guys max. So just, I'll do more courses and not have too big. I'm a 25-year seasoned teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have such a huge class. It's not about the money, but I have guys pay a fee so that I don't end up with just everybody that wants a freebie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's more of a hands-on experience.
But I want a real hands-on one-on-one time with the guys, so I keep it at about a dozen guys.
That's pretty freaking
and all you got to do is get a hold of me on Instagram. MTN_man33, Mountain Man 33.
Love it. Well, Troy, man, I know we're running just a little bit over an hour here. Man, I can't thank you enough for just hopping on the podcast and letting me pick your brain on this mountain whitetail hunting. I know, man, we could probably go on for another 2 hours or so. Heck, I need to sign up for your camp.
I'll bet you if I was in Texas with you right now and you let me go in on your 200, let me look at an aerial of it. Let me go in. I'll break down all your wins for you, how it works, what that buck's doing. You're wanting to kill. I'll bet if I built you a scrape, he'd be on it within 24 to 48 hours.
I'm about to send you an aerial map.
Yeah, I'll send you a little Mountain Man blend if you need some. I'm not joking. I think it'll shock you how well scrapes work on, especially the older mature bucks that are wanting to do all the breeding.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I might have to hit you up on that. I might have to take you up on that offer.
Well, let me share something with you. You said, in Texas they can feed deer, right?
Oh yeah.
Same with Washington State. You can feed deer.
Yeah.
What I do in Washington to beat all the smarter older bucks that a lot of times the only reason these old bucks are getting killed is at the very end of the season. They're almost starving to death. They're hungry. They get shot. They get shot the last couple of days because it's 0 out and there's 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm able to beat them over there by putting some feed out in a state like Texas, like you have to do. Your old bucks figure out that's dangerous.
Oh yeah.
So what you do is you set up this scrape scenario before they travel and have to get to the feed, but close enough to it. You catch all the does too that aren't afraid to feed in the daylight.
Yep.
Those bucks will check that scrape if you put it in good cover. And it can be fairly close to where the destination food source is, but I wouldn't put it out in the open, if that makes sense.
No,
Because those old bucks will really play that, cover careful. That's the game I play in any state that allows feeding.
no, that makes sense, man.
And they'll check it. Like, I got to share this with your listeners. Yesterday I was in stand.
Okay.
It was 3:15 in the afternoon.
Mhm.
I'm on Pacific time. It gets dark at 4:28.
God.
That's when I crawled out of my stand. At 3:15, I'd been sitting there for 2 hours, and I've got a really big, beautiful 5-year-old 5x5 out here. We call them 5x5s.
Yep.
10-pointer for you guys. Pushing 160, beautiful buck, mountain buck.
Sheesh.
Picked his sheds up in the spring. My antler dog picked up one. I picked up the other.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm sitting there at 3:15. The wind is incredible for me and for his approach based on what the trail camera shows me. And all my trail cameras with video, I have a wind indicator in it so I can see how bucks enter and exit my scrapes.
Yeah.
I watch which way the wind's blowing when they enter, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
So anyway, I'm sitting there and I've got a scrape up above and I've got this triangle set up and I'm over in Eastern Washington. And I start thinking I need to put a scrape right down there based on what that wind's doing. I'm going to push it right towards that big bedding area or travel corridor.
Mhm.
And it was 3:15. And I said, screw it. I know this will work. Bailed out of my stand real quiet, had my 2 bottles, already picked out a licking branch that was already there for me and a spot I could build that scrape. And I did it in like 3 minutes. And I just loaded it with scent. And the wind was blowing, and it was like at a 45-degree angle from my stand. And I knew the wind would blow it perfectly into that thick bedding.
Yeah.
I built it, got back on my stand, and before 4:28, I had 2 bucks walk right through that scrape and not go anywhere near that feed up the hill.
Dang.
I'm not joking. That was yesterday. They want nothing to do with that feed that they're afraid of, but I do that to keep my does in Washington. If I don't, my does all leave.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I'll shoot straight with anybody. That's the game I have to play when people can feed.
I do. I won't hide it, man. Like out at our place,
Yeah,
I've
never.
got one feeder. That's
Yep.
all I've got. Just one feeder out there because it keeps the does in there, and I've kind of created this little sanctuary, I guess you could say, because they've got bedding, they got food, and they got water right there.
Yeah, and if you don't have a feeder, you got to have a crop or you got to have something to keep your does, or you'll lose your does.
Yeah.
Especially you guys that are hunting small parcels like 200 acres.
Yeah. Well, the problem I've got now too is I've got all these dang feral hogs everywhere that I've killed 7 of them so far this year.
Yep. When I hunt Oklahoma, one of the biggest problems down there for my buddy that lets me come down and hunt is the hogs. They're horrible.
It's insane. Between our property and then the 3 neighboring properties, there's probably, I would say, close to 4 dozen pigs that they're broken up into 3 to 4 different groups that they just rotate around these properties.
Yep. And he has to put little short fences up for his deer to feed, to jump inside of them and jump out.
Yep, that's what I've got. But the pigs still find a way in, or they break their way in. It's that's just what those little boogers do, but that's okay. That's why I keep not a trash arrow, but I keep a sacrificial arrow in the quiver every time I go to the stand.
If you put that buck fever synthetic blend of mine on that whitetail buck, I guarantee you he'll check it. As long as you keep your human scent out of your build.
I can do that, man. I can do it. Well, I love it.
I'm not joking you, man. It's incredible. I could love to show your listeners literally the last decade of feedback I've got. And I've done a lot of podcasts, and I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
But the guys that follow that really figure this scrape hunting out and add it to their arsenal, it's a great tool on an old mature buck.
Shoot, yeah. Well, Troy, I love it, man. I know once we get done recording here, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But, Troy, can't thank you enough, man. Tell the listeners real quick again where they can find you on socials, because I know there's going to be a couple folks that probably hear this and want to figure out how to sign up for your camp.
Okay. Instagram is the best. My Facebook is loaded full. So it's MTN_man, Mountain Man 33. And I'm in the middle of the heart of my whitetail hunt right now. So don't anyone take it bad if I don't get back to you for a day or two. But outside of hunting season, man, I make sure, and I'll get back to anybody no matter what.
Yeah.
But outside of hunting season, I'm pretty easy to I try to make sure I talk to anybody that reaches out and wants a little help.
Okay. Well,
And then it's just Troy Pottenger's I got a YouTube page that I really need to spend more time on, but it's got some really cool scrape videos on it, probably 100 or 200. I don't know. It's a bunch. And just of my big mountain bucks, like finding my scrapes for the first time or me shooting them over them or whatever. And that's just my name, Troy Pottenger, YouTube. And then Facebook is Troy Pottenger, but I only have room for like 20 people.
Okay.
Yep.
Man, I love it. And then you said you've got, 2 or 3 camps coming up in the summer?
I usually do 3 in the summer, and I try to do like in Eastern Washington, North Idaho, Western Montana, 1 in each area.
Okay. Well,
and they're just a 1-day camp. I'll give anybody that's serious about it the details. And I think, every guy that's ever come to it's always told me when they're done, very affordable, Troy, for the amount of information and stuff you shared with us today. And it's 50% in a classroom type setting or in my house. And then 50% of it's out in the field of actual application of methods and how to do it.
Got it. Well, love it, man. Well, again, I really appreciate you hopping on and really looking forward to what the future holds with Numa and, of course, you and just getting the next best gear out there.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you guys for having me. Numa, I'm loving the gear. I'm also really excited about what we have plans for that late season, cold weather, northern gear for guys that are all hunting up north.
Me too, man. Me too. Can't wait. There you go, everybody. Another end to another episode of the Geared for the Outdoors podcast. We just want to thank all of y'all for tuning in and thanking Troy, our man, for hopping on the podcast with us to dive into the world of mountain whitetail hunting. It's a completely different world. Not familiar with it myself too much, so definitely interested in learning more. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to go get out in the woods and chase some mountain whitetail one of these days. But Troy, thanks again, buddy, for hopping on the podcast with us. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We want to wish y'all a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and we hope that you're getting to spend some time with family, friends, and just take some time to chill, relax. It's been a long, stressful, fast-paced year, and so hopefully you're getting out in the stand, killing some big bucks or filling the freezer. But again, thank you everybody for tuning in to the Geared for the Outdoors podcast. Year's not over yet. We're still going to get some more episodes to y'all, but thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.